From your favorite source for Chicago White Sox talk, delivering news, interviews, analysis, and more. This is the Sox Machine Podcast with your hosts, Jim Margulis, James Fegan, and Josh Nelson.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special edition Sox Machine Live. I am Josh Nelson alongside Sox Machine's managing editor, Jim Margulis. This is the 2024 MLB trade deadline show as we started streaming at 4:15 p.m. Central Time. In 45 minutes will be the MLB trade deadline, and there's been a flurry of moves around Major League Baseball. The Chicago White Sox, thought to be one of the biggest sellers entering this trade deadline season, have made another move on Tuesday, sending shortstop Paul DeJong to the Kansas City Royals. We'll talk about that minor trade. Also, some of the big trades. Baltimore Orioles add a starting pitcher from Miami. And speaking of Miami, they have been the biggest sellers today. It sounds like they may not be done selling. It'll be hard to recognize just who the Marlins are after today. They may trade up to 10 players that were just on their 26-man roster 2 days ago. So they have been the big sellers along with Tampa Bay. And we also have a clubhouse report about the Chicago White Sox and Pedro Grifol from our friends over at 670 The Score that we will talk about before we conclude the trade deadline again at 5 p.m. Central Time. As always, for those that are watching on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/SoxMachine, thank you. Put in the comment section if you guys see rumors before we do. I'll be sharing my screen. We'll be searching through Twitter to see what the latest updates have been. But Jim, welcome to the trade deadline show. I figured that this would be pretty busy for the White Sox, but we're 45 minutes out. And I feel like despite having Luis Robert and Garrett Crochet, all Chris Getz has left over to move in the next 45 minutes is minor pieces like Nicky Lopez and whoever wants John Brabia.
Yeah, there's been some talk about Crochet, but it's hard to tell if it's a matter of feeling like the well is poisoned between Crochet and the White Sox to where, you know, he wants to deal him no matter what, or the Dodgers are that interested to where they're going to do another Tyler Glasnow thing of signing and extending him because they are not afraid to do that. Hard to say. I would feel like it's, I'm not counting on it, I would say, because just there is a lot of purpose in keeping him until after the season, letting him finish the season on his innings plan that they have him ascribed to and are doing pretty well with so far. And not letting this CAA thing flare up, destroy any leverage they have. But that's my guess. I mean, that one wouldn't surprise me as much as Robert's going anywhere. Like, Robert doesn't seem like there's really any traction towards acquiring him so far. And it doesn't really make sense to force a deal if they don't have to.
Well, I think when the Atlanta Braves, because we talked about it in Monday's podcast, that maybe the Braves could be a late entry to the Luis Robert sweepstakes, they took on Jorge Soler's contract. And in that trade with the Giants, what's interesting, Jim, is that Soler just signed a 3-year deal with the San Francisco Giants. So the Braves are taking on the remaining 2 years. So the Braves were willing to take on somebody's contract to help out in the outfield or in DH. The Braves have Marcell Ozuna, so I assume he'll still be the DH, and now Jorge Soler will have to play in the outfield. Again, Jorge Soler is one of the heroes of the 2021 postseason for the Atlanta Braves when they went on to win the World Series, upsetting the Houston Astros. I'm with you. I just don't see a market right now for Luis Robert. Quite frankly, I may not see a market so much in this upcoming offseason for Luis Robert, but a lot of things could change from here till then. With Garrett Crochet and the CAA and the contract extension, when Baltimore made that trade for Trevor Rogers, a left-handed pitcher, he's very good. When he is healthy, Rogers can be a nice addition for the Baltimore Orioles. And the Orioles, like what the Marlins got back, is going to spark some jealousy, Jim, for White Sox fans. And outfielder Kyle Stowers and infielder Connor Noby. And those two hitting prospects, is it fair to say, like, if the White Sox traded Eric Fetty to Baltimore. If Baltimore will offer this for Eric
Mhm.
Fetty, Stowers and Noby would probably be in the White Sox lineup tonight. Like they would be starting games for the White Sox.
Yeah, it feels. I think the difference is, Stowers is on the older side, so that one doesn't impress me as much. Like it would be nice, but it also feel a little bit like, I don't know, Dominic Fletcher-ish in terms of just trying to find a guy who might be on the outside looking in,
Got it.
outfield situation, and doesn't quite have enough to hold down right field. Interesting. Like I'd be happy to see him on the White Sox and give him the kind of playing time they could offer him, but might not be that impressive for Fetty. I think Norby is the bigger get for them. I think the difference is, and what the weak part of the Fetty return is that it's just, I think if you're trading somebody like Fetty, you'd like to have somebody who comes in return. You could say, like, I can see this person handling X position by next year. Like when the White Sox traded Lucas Giolito for Edgar Caro. You could see Caro saying, like, oh, he's a catcher, AA is, I would say a reasonable expectation is that he could be getting a major league audition by 2025. If it's earlier, great, but also there's some development left. But if he's not like in the conversation by midseason 2025, then there might be a problem. That would be disappointing, even though it's within the realm of possibility. With Vargas, like he'll get at bats, but where? And, can he hit righties? And, is he a plus defender or acceptable defender anywhere in the field? Hard to say. And then you have 19-year-olds in A-ball who are individually, interesting prospects worth following in the minor keys and whatnot. But it'll be hard to pencil them in on any timetable. So like, that's kind of where I think the weak spot is of the Fetty return. Not so much the individual ceilings on any one player, but how it fits in what the White Sox are trying to build. None of them seem to really address that.
Our friend James Fegan, our beat reporter, who's currently at Guarantee Ray Field, just took this photo of Paul DeJong quickly in a Kansas City Royals cap and uniform, just had to walk across the field as he joins the Royals bench bat, Jim, for DeJong. I would say that clearly, if you watched last night's game, the Royals are pretty set at shortstop.
Oh, I thought they're going to trade Bobby Witt Jr. I thought this opened up the possibility of trading Witt.
That would be amazing. That'd be like
they have their shortstop.
If you did that in fantasy baseball, you would be banned the next season from that league if you traded Bobby Witt Jr. for Paul DeJong. Like collusion claims would be.
That's the Charlie Finley A's, or the Kansas City team, not the current one.
Oh man. All right. So I'm currently on Twitter right now, sharing the screen. We're going to talk about Pedro Grifal's comments and the report about the fractured White Sox clubhouse. Just scrolling as far as news getting caught up, which, by the way, going back to our comments here, I want to thank Little Yumper. Thank you so much for the super chat. I will make sure that Frankie does get a treat, as we got good news about Frankie's health this afternoon. And I'm glad that at least I am here and nothing more serious. So that is the good news. Arizona. So Christian Walker got hurt and they trade for Josh Bell from the Miami Marlins. I believe the Marlins, it looks like from the comment section, YouTube just traded. Is it Brian De La Cruz that they also traded out to Pittsburgh?
Yes, I believe so.
How many trades is that for
the
Miami Marlins?
So starter, closer, left fielder, first baseman. So that's 4 I can think of off the top of my head.
All right. So Josh Bell, first baseman, gone. Starting pitcher, Trevor Rogers, gone. Reliever, JT.
Chisholm too. Yeah. So Chargois,
gone. Now having to claim guys off of waivers to fill out their team. Yeah. Jazz Chisholm, gone. So yeah, they have been quite busy in the last couple of days, and they may not be done. This also doesn't include the rumored deal with San Diego, correct? Didn't they just trade Isn't that another trade? Travis Scott going to San Diego? Did I misread that?
Yes, that's the closer. Yeah. Not
Got
official
it.
yet.
Not official yet. Jeff Passan, another trade coming in. The Pirates and Blue Jays making a deal. Blue Jays have been pretty busy as well. Isaiah Kiner Falefa has been all over the place the last couple of years, but now he's going to the Pittsburgh Pirates. So we'll be going back and forth Twitter to get the latest news and share that. And of course, when you guys also see things, put them in the chat as well. And we will be sharing that information. Lean on you guys as much as possible while we are live streaming. We still have about 34 minutes before the deadline. Miguel Vargas, Jim, he is with the White Sox. James Fegan was able to get a picture. Great head of hair. That totally changes everything with the trade. With that 80 grade hair that Miguel Vargas has, everything has gotten so much better for the White Sox in that 3-team trade. Vargas, I'm going to assume, will be in the lineup tonight, and we'll get a chance to watch him in action. And again, there's the two big things. We're going to be paying attention to defense. Like, what is his defensive home long-term in the majors? The Dodgers could not figure it out. And how does Vargas handle right-handed pitching? If he is in the lineup tonight, he's going up against Michael Wacha of the Kansas City Royals, in which Wacha completely shut down the White Sox not that long ago when we were there for our annual road trip at Kauffman Stadium against the White Sox. So those are the things we're going to be watching out for with Vargas. And it would be nice for a change of pace, Jim. I'm not saying that Vargas needs to go on a run like Tyler Fitzgerald did for the San Francisco Giants as of late, but hey, I won't stop him if he wants to if he wants home runs in 5 consecutive games. Let's go. They'll give some
8 and 10, is it? I think
something like that. Yeah, just absolutely crazy. But it'd be nice if Vargas could hit the ground running, because we all know the White Sox offense needs this, but they also need some hope sparked from somewhere. And there's a lot riding on Vargas's ability to hit for the White Sox immediately.
Yeah. And Wacha isn't the kind of right-handed velocity that, StatCast says that he's not hitting, and that the scouts wonder if he can actually turn around. So he's tough. He's crafty righty, or at least, has the changeup that befuddles White Sox hitters, but should have an idea of like whether he can, tell, I guess, what off speed, secondary pitch recognition versus actually having the bat speed or the mechanics to catch up to like right-handed fastballs 96 and higher. So worth watching. I mean, that's the good thing about Vargas, is that at least he's worth paying attention to. Like when you look at the lineup, you kind of go around the diamond, like Luis Robert, worth watching just because he's the only star left. Brooks Baldwin, worth watching because want to see how he develops. Andrew Vaughn, maybe, depending on whether you've already made up your mind about him. Eloy Jimenez, you're just kind of letting the clock tick down on him. So, who is there really to watch and pay attention to and chart at bats and look for progress? Not a whole lot. So Vargas will be that. And I'll be watching him in the field as well. But I'm looking forward to watching him against righties, even if the production isn't there, just because it is something to pay attention to.
Our friend Billy OK, at least he's worth paying attention to, is a real banger of a box score. That's where we are.
That's where we're at.
That's where we're at. A couple of super chats. Our dear friend Aloha, Mr. Hand, thank you. This is going to be a thing, I guess, at this live stream. Everybody wants to buy treats for Frankie as he just got back from the vet. Mailman Jack, thank you. I'll make sure that he gets some pepperoni. Thank you guys so much for the super chats.
Not dog pneumonia. I've had that in my head for the last 15 minutes since you texted
that. Billy responding, White Sox baseball. That's where we're at. Literally, it'd be kind of funny. It'd be like, we're literally at 35th and Shields. Please come watch us. Nobody is. Should we talk about the report, Jim, that our friends over at 670 The Score just shared? Let me go ahead and get that ready to go, because I've been ready for something like this. So our friend,
I was hoping like DeYoung would just go to the other dugout and then just start immediately dishing.
Yeah.
Like kind of like Keenan Middleton did, not long after, except like minutes after, just, shouting from the other dugout.
Yeah, since I'm over here, the view's much different. Let me tell you guys what's really going on. That would be great from Paul Dion. But our friend Shane Reardon, executive producer for the Parkinson Spiegel show on 670 The Score, tweeted out, and they talked about this on their show. The first game from the All-Star break, manager Pedro Grifol told his team, paraphrasing, that it, quote, "If this goes down as one of the worst seasons ever, it's on absolutely no one but the players," end quote. And that running and batting practice have been mandated for the White Sox. And again, the great thing about having James Fegan part of Sox Machine, and thank you to everyone that helps us out on Patreon to have James for us covering the games. And he's currently at the stadium. James texted us this, that Grifol denies he put it on the players for the lack of success, but saying he did mandate running and batting practice. So that report is true. But did provide room for exceptions. Grifol said that they had a meeting before the second half where the stated goal was to avoid being the worst team of all time. And boy, Jim, what a motivating speech from Pedro Grifol, because they have yet to win a game since the All-Star break. And now they are on pace to set a new worst record ever in Major League Baseball. After today, let's just be straightforward. Like, obviously the clubhouse is going to be fractured. Like, who's listening to Pedro Grifol right now within that White Sox clubhouse? Even the new guys, like, getting acquainted with Grifol. Why? Like, he's not going to be your manager next season. So after today, does it make any sense to continue having Grifol other than your evil desire to him set the new record for worst winning percentage ever, not only White Sox franchise history, but also challenge the all-time Major League Baseball record? Does it make sense to continue having Grifol manage?
Well, Miguel Vargas hits with Mike Tosar in the offseason, part of that factory that produced such luminary White Sox hitters as Oscar Colas and Romy Gonzalez, although Gonzalez is actually doing okay with the Red Sox this year around some injuries. But it's, when I heard that quote and I saw that quote, it reminded me of like an attempt at maybe Grifol trying to channel Herb Brooks in the Finland gold medal game in 1980 Olympic hockey team, where they're trailing 2-1 going in the third period. And he said, if you lose this game, you'll take it with you to your effing graves. And obviously, that was a motivational speech for a team on the cusp of greatness. And, after beating the Soviet hockey team, peaking early perhaps and trying to warn them against thinking that they'd done the hard part when one more game was left and looking like it, whereas the White Sox are trying to accomplish the opposite, or they're on track to basically be the last place pool team in the 1980 Olympics, like going winless and running up a goal differential of $5 billion. That's kind of what they're looking at. And it just, he strikes me as, it's an empty uniform, I think, right now. There's just not a whole lot there. He doesn't have any gears he can go in. He can't launch a charm offensive. He's never been able to. Like, that was my concern about Grifol. Like, even going back to his first spring training, is that this guy is all about the baseball. He makes himself, I'm thinking about baseball 24/7. I don't go on the internet because that distracts me from thinking about how to make baseball better. And if he was all about that and the baseball is terrible, how do you detach yourself from that? How do you step away and say, right, it's not just me. Like, I'm, this is my best effort. This is what I'm giving my heart and soul and blood, sweat, and tears into. And I'm going to be the worst manager in White Sox history and one of the worst in modern baseball. Like, that's, you want to be able to say, And I think this is maybe like his last minute pivot away from that, saying it's not just me, it's the players. In fact, it's probably the players, but it just, he doesn't have gears. He doesn't have modes. It's just, there was one way I think the Grifol experience would work, end up working just fine. That's if the player stayed healthy. But once it required savvy and problem solving and media relations and conflict management, even if it means like inviting conflict to make hard decisions. He did not possess any of that. So he is where he is right now because of that.
We got some more super chats, and now we got a Garrett Crochet rumor that we could pay attention to in the last 25 minutes. Our friend Brian, hashtag treats for Frankie. Thank you so much, Brian. Alex, love to you and Frankie. When you said treat, Lucy's ears perked up. So here's to Lucy and Frankie. Thank you, Alex. And just for you, Jim, our friend Billy. Okay, I think Jim should get a treat as well. So
thank you.
Thank you, Billy. All right. So here is the Garrett Crochet rumor. And I don't know how to feel about this. This could be nothing, but James Stewart, who is an executive producer over at 985, the Sports Hub out in Boston, tweeted, heard the White Sox want the Red Sox to take Andrew Benintendi in a potential deal for Garrett Crochet. Jim, Roman Anthony, one of the top outfield prospects for the Boston Red Sox, has been scratched from the lineup tonight. He's currently in Double-A. So people are wondering out in Boston, do the Red Sox have a move up their sleeve before the deadline? So maybe we could watch to see if the Red Sox want to make that move. I get the Red Sox wanting Garrett Crochet. They're still in the thick of things. They just signed Alex Cora to that contract extension. I don't know what they do with Andrew Benintendi. I really don't. But if the Red Sox take on Benintendi in a Crochet deal, I feel like you're just watering down a potential return for Garrett Crochet, right?
Oh yeah, it's dumb. Like it's a bad idea.
So we have to take it seriously.
I would hope not. I mean, you have to take it seriously because the White Sox do things like this. So you can't rule it out. But when it comes to Roman Anthony, Chris Cotillo, Red Sox beat writer, said that the scratch is not deadline related. He wasn't actually scratched. He was just not in the lineup. Happened to be coincidental. That's what he's saying. John Heyman said the same thing. No relationship to a trade there. So I wouldn't draw a connection there. With Benintendi, who are the White Sox paying? Like, what is their payroll after Moncada leaves, after Jimenez is off the books, they have to pay their buyouts. Crochet, like he might be traded before there's any kind of arbitration jump. Andrew Vaughn will not get an arbitration jump. Like they're barely paying anybody right now. So they don't need him to leave to, clear decks for more exciting moves. Like there'll be plenty of payroll space to accommodate anybody they want to add. It's just more a matter of like, how much talent is there to warrant adding a free agent, and getting your team from, this is how depressing it is. Like I was going to say, like reflexively 60 wins, just because like that's where you go for a team that's out of it. Like you're gonna just have a team go from 60 to 65 wins, but the White Sox, like will they get to 40 wins? That's kind of where they're right now, to where, will they go from 40 to 45 wins by signing a free agent? This is where, the White Sox are at. Yeah. I don't see this as credible. Perhaps it's a case where Benintendi is known among Red Sox people. So it's like some kind of vaguely sourced rumor or something somebody heard, but I'm hoping that's the case, because unless, a team really sees Benintendi as a solution, doesn't make any sense to water down the Crochet part.
Right. That's the part that would scare me. To answer your question, according to Cott's contracts from Baseball Reference, the 2025 payroll for the White Sox is going to start around $42.1 million. So you have the buyouts for Moncada and Eloy. That's $8 million combined. Out of that $42 million, Andrew Benintendi takes up $17 million. Luis Robert takes up $15 million. So $32 million of the $42.1 million on the books goes to two players. And then you have a bunch of guys in arbitration. You have a bunch of guys that are pending free agents. The Sox Machine offseason plan project, even if we did set it at like a realistic, like $80, $90 million payroll, which would be depressing. But even if you did that, there's still like lots of room that Chris Getz could actually add some meaningful players on like 2 to 3 year deals to improve the team in 2025 and maybe flirt with the idea that you can pivot and get this car back in the right direction into contending in 2026. Like, yeah, the payroll would be, gosh, really super low for the White Sox, but money is an issue when you're not drawing, and your TV ratings, which we're going to be getting those ratings pretty soon, not doing great. And you're going to be launching a new network as well and not know where or how people are going to be watching that new network, even though they just recently had their big presentation. So they're ramping up to start launching on October 1st. So there's some movement on that end through sources. I guess this is a little news for those. John Striffen is expected to stay as he was part of that presentation to potential advertisers and sponsors of the new network. So Striffen is not expected to be leaving after the season.
The hits keep coming.
Yeah, the hits keep coming. Thank you, Jackie, who just recorded an awesome episode for our friends over from the 108. The Aju podcast that was yesterday. Highly recommend checking that out at youtube.com/from the 108. From Zoe to Frankie, thank you so much. I mean, Frankie, first of all, is an incredibly spoiled dog to begin with. If we should be sponsored by BarkBox, because my lovely wife Kim gets Frank a monthly BarkBox, and that dude's got more toys than any dog can do with right now. So he's incredibly spoiled. But thank you, everyone, for the get well treats. I will make sure that Frankie makes it rain, as Mailman Jack said in the comment section at PetSmart. He'll get to pick a new toy and get some treats. So thank you guys for that. I really appreciate it.
The Marlins made another trade.
Who do they trade now?
Brazoban, yeah, another reliever to the Mets. So they are Peter Bendix. Transactional.
Very transactional. Wow. It's going to be hard to recognize that team. And another great Twitter account, and I will bring them up here in a moment. Like us, they used to be part of SB Nation. They got kicked out of SB Nation and now launched their own site. And we've helped them out with advice, but they do such great work covering the Marlins. They're Fish on First. I highly recommend following them at Fish on First and check out their website. Eli, the entire team, they do such a great job covering the Marlins. I think they're having the chaos that we were kind of mentally preparing to have chaos, Jim. Because again, if this was happening, if Chris Getz was that transactional, if the White Sox ever were that transactional, you would have to be writing up 6 trade posts. You just write one mega trade post that's thousands of words long because you have to cover 6 trades. Like, I mean, good for the Marlins. Obviously, they're not going anywhere this season, so why not? And they need a clearer direction as they transitioned from the front office. But now you're saying, whoa.
Eloy to Baltimore.
Eloy
Jimenez? Jeff Passan, actual Jeff Passan.
What? Wait. Hold on. I Zoom. I can't believe that. Eloy Jimenez is going to the Baltimore Orioles. Jim, I'm going to be straight up. I don't like this trade for Baltimore. I don't think this is a good fit for them. Why?
It's a great question. Like, I'm picturing him like trying to hit grounders to the left field wall.
That wall is so huge. What is he going to do at Camden Yards?
I don't know. I mean, like, I guess it depends on if they just got him for nothing or just picking up for like $2 million and like some reliever they didn't realize they had on their rookie ball roster. Perhaps it's just like, yeah, we could let's mess with him and see if he's worth the team options. But I don't get it. Like, I'm pretty surprised.
Baltimore, baby, what are we doing? We cover this team. Like, what are you doing? Oh man. Well, Chris Getz has totally redeemed himself. Oh, okay. So after the shock wears off, our friend James Fegan is confirming the news right now on Twitter. Again, follow James at JR Fegan. And James is able to confirm that Eloy Jimenez has been traded to the Baltimore Orioles. You know what's funny about this, Jim, is that last night, Ozzy in the post-game show for NBC Sports Chicago had another rant. And the rant was so many White Sox players in the clubhouse are looking to get traded, but who wants you? Eloy's one of those guys, and he gets dealt. Not to any team. The Orioles, who have a shot of winning the American League pennant and have a realistic shot of going to the World Series. Is he a bench bat? Isn't Anthony Santander their DH? Do they have DH issues at Baltimore?
I think they have plenty of bats. I'm trying to think. Look at their depth chart right now.
I wonder if the White Sox were getting any prospects back, like cash. Are the White Sox sending cash along with this trade to maybe cover the buyout?
Joel Sherman says this is mainly to get out money for the White Sox. So it could be sending some cash to avoid paying him more.
Okay. So it is a salary dump. We'll get full details here, but that is a shocker, a big shocker. The White Sox were able to find a taker for Eloy Jimenez. So what a journey in the same year. But then again, Eloy's time with the White Sox was not going to be very long. The White Sox were not going to pick up that option. It was, as we just talked about, when we were looking at the dedicated money for the White Sox going to next year. Yeah, the Eloy tenure is over for the White Sox, and that obituary post is going to be interesting, Jim. I don't foresee a reunion ever happening, but I guess if we were asked, like, how would you grade or evaluate the Eloy Jimenez tenure for the White Sox, it started with the bang and ended with a dud.
And Robert Murray saying Tanner Banks going to Philadelphia.
Good move for the Phillies. And you know what? Good for Tanner Banks. Tanner Banks pitched well for the White Sox. Older rookie. He definitely grinded through the minor leagues. Finally got a chance to be in the major leagues. He pitched well for the White Sox in mop-up duty. Kept on taking bigger responsibilities in medium and sometimes high leverage situations. And now he gets a chance to go after a World Series with the Philadelphia Phillies. So, Tanner, awesome job. I've got good things to say about your tenure for the White Sox. We appreciate you, and best of luck in Philadelphia. Eloy, I still don't know what to say.
Yeah, Banks, he did a good job of always being the last. He had the options remaining of the bullpen. That was always his role, is he could be the guy who would throw 3 innings in a game and then be optioned to Charlotte the next day because they used him up. They need a fresh arm and he's the only guy they can send down. So it was an uneasy existence for a lot of his tenure, but considering he's a late bloomer and, had to deal with that uncertainty, handled pretty well, fashioned out a decent, career in his early 30s. And Philadelphia should be good for him.
We got 10 minutes before the trade deadline. Again, thank you to everyone that has joined us on youtube.com/Sox Machine. So during this live stream, the White Sox have made 2 moves: Eloy Jimenez to Baltimore, Tanner Banks to Philadelphia. With Jimenez going to Baltimore, I guess anything and everything's on the table here, Jim. 10 minutes left to go. Could we be, we've already had one surprise with Eloy getting traded. Maybe a Garrett Crochet deal can happen.
Yeah, or maybe Moncada gets traded. If Eloy's being sent to Baltimore, perhaps it opens up all possibilities. And this is just everybody trying to get anybody with potential from the White Sox for the bare minimum, because the White Sox will be happy to save any money on them.
Is that where they're at? I guess. I mean, that was something I hadn't thought about is the money equation. I mean, it's such a business move.
I think Eloy is more about probably, given just all the issues he has running to first, all of the consternation about him, is he healthy? Is he not? Why is he not hustling? And just feeling like there's just the same argument about his presence over and over again, that perhaps it just removes a headache from the whole effort equation, or the general way the White Sox present themselves. Like, that's maybe my guess in terms of why he got dealt, even if they're not really getting anything back. And it's really just a matter of like saving $1 million or whatever it is here or there.
Will they hang up Eloy's jersey in the clubhouse, in the dugout today?
They should.
Again, it started off with a bang. 2019, man. I thought, wow, the White Sox got the middle of the order lineup. I mean, you got Jose Abreu, Moncada, Jimenez. This team's really going to take off. And 2020 was fun, even for 60 games. 2021, obviously, he slam dunked the wall. Didn't see him until late that season. Okay, so there's a lot of players so Frazier Ellard was waiting. He was called up. He was in Chicago waiting for a trade to get finalized. So Tanner Banks being sent to Philadelphia. Frazier Ellard replaces Banks in the bullpen. How do the White Sox replace Eloy?
I guess that's not a question you really have to consider in a way. Just the way he's been hitting, like anybody can hit ground balls, basically is what you're looking at for who's going to replace him. Lenine Sosa's around. So I
figured Lenine was replacing DeYoung,
but Vargas is here as well. So like Vargas would have replaced DeYoung, I think, in the infield mix, and Sosa's around. So they have a bat there as well. So there's that.
We got this chat message from Patrick. Tim Elko to Chicago.
He just went to Charlotte.
Yeah, I know he just went to Charlotte, but now that you don't have Eloy being the anchor at DH, and you can give some at-bats around, pass them around. Like, I'm curious. Like, this is the White Sox opportunity to be creative, to give guys opportunities. So it may not be so much who do we need to fill in for Eloy. Maybe that's the short term, like as in tonight, to play a game at 7:00 against the Kansas City Royals. But perhaps who do you want to see take those DH at bats, Jim, moving forward?
Basically, it's a way to kind of have Vargas, I think, probably getting at bats no matter what. Whether they have him in right now, he's been playing a lot of left field, which seems unlikely with Benintendi there. But if they want him in a corner, they can play him in left and have Benintendi have DH, or if they want to play him at first base, which is where he's played, Andrew Vaughn can DH. So perhaps it'll be a spot where if Vargas is getting reps somewhere, the person he's playing for will be getting the overflow at bats, I guess, the DH spot.
We got this message or tweet from Ken Rosenthal, The Athletic, reporting that Garrett Crochet will not be traded. So that Boston rumor fails. Benintendi's still here. I can't believe they traded Eloy. I really can't believe, and it's Baltimore.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, maybe, sure. Baltimore. Take it on Eloy. Now watch, Eloy hits like 15 home runs.
Yeah.
This season.
Yeah, they know what they're doing, so you have to assume like they have some kind of idea, and maybe it is just like a $1 or $2 million flyer they're taking to where not that he's somebody you think about like in terms of a blocking sense. But I remember like when the Yankees traded for Jose Canseco at a deadline because they wanted to block, I forget who it was, they wanted to block from getting maybe the Red Sox, and they had no plan for him. He barely played and he's just kind of around, but whoever wanted to acquire him didn't get him. So perhaps it's the case with Eloy, is like they didn't want him showing up for some other team and solving a DH spot potentially with like one small tweak they think he can make. But that's my guess, is that's maybe more of a flyer / defensive move than anything they have in mind for him.
Miguel Vargas will wear number 20 for the Chicago White Sox, and he will be batting in the designated hitter spot with Eloy Jimenez now no longer with the Chicago White Sox.
And Crochet will not be traded because Jack Flaherty is going to the Dodgers.
Oh, man. Lauren, so we joined Bernstein and Holmes today on 670 The Score. And Lawrence posed that point about Crochet, that Crochet may have screwed up. That even though he did want that contract extension to play in October, just get out of Chicago. Get out of Chicago, go to a new team, and then bring those issues up with your new team. It may not necessarily create buyer's remorse, and perhaps it would be understanding. And you could still find a way to protect yourself with guaranteed money. You just got to get out of Chicago, which is a really depressing way of looking at it if you're a White Sox fan. But Jim, do you think maybe Crochet did make a mistake here from a personal point of view, that maybe he should have waited for that report to come out publicly after he got dealt?
Yeah, that's what my concern about Crochet was. Yeah, and we mentioned this on the show yesterday, talking about the Eduardo Rodriguez comparison of just, Rodriguez had the ability to get traded. He exercised his no trade clause because he did not want to go to the Dodgers, even though he was in Detroit. The Tigers weren't going anywhere. Had the ability to pitch for a team in contention, chose not to, decided to, opt out and get a contract. He got paid, so it didn't hurt him in the long run. There was just a few months of, did he create some problems for himself? Did he hurt his reputation by passing on the opportunity to play for a team that every competitive player should want to play for? And, it didn't end up burning him. So perhaps same thing with Crochet, to where like maybe there is a bit of short-term egg on face, or inviting some mean tweets, or a little bit of a reflexive, talk show type commentary. If the Dodgers say, or any team does acquire Crochet, I'm like, that's the guy who didn't want to pitch in October. And, he has to overwrite that, but he does have the talent to change the narrative pretty quickly. I mean, that's the difference between like your Crochet and Chris Getz. And Getz said, I would have never done that as a player, but Getz did not have any leverage as a player. He was a utility infielder, kind of like Danny Mendick, without the catastrophic injury in the middle of it, kind of on the cusp of being in an infield mix. Once his salary started going up and having to be guaranteed through arbitration, he was non-tendered. So like completely different experiences. And I think that's why, whatever Getz says about what he would have done or couldn't done only goes so far, because Crochet is good.
We did get this question from Matt. We have 1 minute before the trade deadline, so news will be still trickling in. Matt asking, how is John Bravia still here? You think you include at least a player to be named later. That maybe that trade is coming in. Again, news, the trades and the deals are due by 5 p.m. Central Time. So within the next minute, we may not hear about it for a few minutes after the deadline, as people get caught up with news or teams make those announcements themselves. Obviously, with the Dodgers acquiring Jack Flaherty, that's taking precedence right now when it comes to coverage. That's a big move, and it sounds like for Bob Nightingale. The Dodgers also getting Kevin Kiermaier, who announced that he would be retiring after this season to help out with their outfield defense. Bob Nightingale of USA Today reporting that the Dodgers were still interested in Crochet, and then they pivoted to Flaherty. So maybe making it public about the desire for the contract extension did impact Garrett Crochet's ability to get traded. It impact Chris Getz's opportunity to add to the farm system. And we've got a fractured clubhouse already with the mandates that Pedro Grifol is putting into place, Jim. This could be a drama-filled August and September for the Chicago White Sox. So if you like soap opera, if you like messy relationships, we may see it in the final 2 months of the season. So at least something to watch, especially with how the White Sox handle Crochet for the rest of the season. I think you might as well push him again. prove that he can handle a full season's workload, maybe get him into the top 10, top 5, maybe top 3 for American League Cy Young conversation, Jim, and enhance that opportunity to trade him again in the off season. So that's how I would handle Garrett Crochet, is take the training wheels off and be like, all right, you want to go, and let's push you back up again.
Could be. I saw a comment from Drake in the comments saying, send Garrett to Charlotte to show him that his actions have consequences. And that would invite all sorts of grievances. Like when you have a Cy Young contender optioning with Charlotte to try to claw back your service time, seems like it would not go well. So like, that doesn't seem like
a Jim Bowden, right? Bowden said something like that in The Athletic.
Yeah. I don't get why he has a job. Jim Bowden, like when you have a skimming scandal as a GM, it seems like you should not have jobs in baseball anymore or comment. Yeah. So yeah. It is going to be awkward though. Like I'm thinking of like there've been a couple times where like Cy Young finisher, Gold Glover, where immediately like they get an award or they get nominated to a finalist and then they get non-tendered or they get traded, and just like that's kind of how it goes for the White Sox. Any kind of superlative performance that gains league-wide recognition, either the rest of the team can't support it or that player has one skill, like in the case of Yolmer Sanchez, where he was a Gold Glover, but then he was just too expensive in arbitration to support his bat, wasn't worth having around. And so they celebrated his Gold Glove and then let him go. It's just, that's kind of how it goes right now.
Matt, our future manager, AJ Przinsky, also suggested the terrible send Crochet to AAA idea. Don't take the job, AJ. Don't take the job.
Yeah. Baseball America noted Travis Sawchik just reiterated that no top 100 prospects have been dealt.
We had that feeling. Teams are being very protective about their top prospects. And that came to be with this trade deadline. And we'll see if anyone pivots from that stance going into the winter meetings, and maybe they won't. And I think, we got this comment from King James, and I think King James makes a good point. You don't want Crochet to get hurt, Josh. You should have an army of doctors around giving the thumbs up to pitch him. But I think you got to push him. I think just he wants to prove that he can handle a full starter's workload. Let him. I mean, he's going to arbitration next year, but because it's like a rate pay increase, he only made like $800,000 this year. He's not going to be that expensive next year. You want that selling point. Like Crochet can give you at least 150 innings because he just did it in 2024. I think that's the magic number. I would push Crochet to 150 innings now for the rest of the year.
I can see him going on like the plan that they use for Tommy John. Either pitchers going through their first full season or pitchers coming back from Tommy John surgery in the minors, where it's 4 to 5 innings, 75 pitches or so every time out, but taking the ball every time out and just building up the workload, building up the up and downs. Like, I think that's how I would treat it more or less. And if there is a week where there are a couple days off or he's pitching on extended rest, maybe go a bit longer and just gauge it. But yeah, so far there's no signs that he should miss time. And, goodness knows with the way the White Sox are going right now, and with Eric Fetty gone, that they're going to need any kind of credible start possible to try to avoid being the worst team in baseball. So I think there's incentive for Crochet to pitch more, build up his salary, because he's got to build up the workload, I think, to make more money through arbitration comparisons. And also, perhaps have more people interested in services that aren't the White Sox. And when it comes to the just the White Sox interests and trying to be a reasonable product, pitching him means that. Yeah, I don't see clawing back service time as meaning anything, or the whole conversation. Seems like he's going to be dealt. I don't see this relationship repairing, or Chris Getz has already said we had to consider long-term health of our franchise if we're going to extend him. So they're not considering extending him. So
no,
I think his value is what his value is at this point. And it's more a matter of just resetting his workload and having his next team be able to control how he pitches all the way through a season.
And we're getting returns coming down the pipe. We'll have those reported on soxmachine.com. But I really want to thank everyone that watched the live stream with us, as it's currently 5:05 p.m. Central Time. We got some work to do over at Sox Machine. We got to eat dinner. I think that's the next agenda. I got to feed Frankie some medicine. Again, thank you guys so much for the super chats. I will make sure that Frankie is well taken care of when it comes to treats. And thank you guys for your continued support of us over at Sox Machine, as this will conclude our live stream of the MLB trade deadline show. If you just discovered us on YouTube, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Sox Machine. We greatly appreciate it. We always take the audio versions of our live streams and upload them into our podcast channel, which you can subscribe to the Sox Machine podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, such as Spotify and Apple Music. And of course, follow us on social media. We're on all the platforms at Sox Machine. You can follow me at SoxMachine_Josh. Follow James Fegan as well at JR Fegan. Sox Machine Live is a production of SoxMachine.com. You're on for all things Chicago White Sox baseball and part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. Alongside Jim Margulis, I'm Josh Nelson. Thanks for watching and listening.